Good evening. You're live on air.
Hello, Sheron, it's Calibe.
Yes, hi, Calibe. I was just explaining that for my previous guest who just came off the line, we had some really horrible issues with the phone, and I'm praying and hoping that we don't have a repeat for you. Anyway, Conduit listeners, you know how it goes, right? Conduit listeners, let me say good evening to my guest, my very special guest, my second guest. We have two very, very special ladies that we're featuring on the Conduit show this March 22nd. The first one was a young lady by Raven Armani. I don't know if you were able to listen to that conversation, Calibe. I know you're a busy, busy person.
I'm actually on the road, so no, I was not able to.
All right. So anyway, let me introduce you now to the Conduit listeners. My second guest, without further ado, at 1 minute past the hour of 7 o'clock, is Jamaican-born TV host, producer, and director Calibe Thompson. Yay! Hey, Calibe!
Hey, Sheron, how are you?
I'm doing fine. And let me just make this disclaimer. I met Calibe on Facebook, but we also happen to service a very popular internet magazine program called Jamaicans.com. And Calibe was doing a great job reading the news for Jamaicans.com. But as is the case with my previous guest, they start off doing one thing and they get moved on and moved on and moved on to a higher calling. Tell us about your early start in the entertainment industry, Calibe.
The early start.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
My locks were just budding.
And now look how long they are.
And now look how long they are, but they were just budding at the time. I started off as a singer, as you know, because
Right.
you're going to out me.
Yes, I'm going to out you, but we're going to talk more before I out you. So
Okay,
again,
then.
another start off singing, but then move into something completely different.
Well, in fact, I sang for, I think, maybe 16 to 18 years. So that was the bulk of my career in the entertainment industry.
Wow.
I started off in Jamaica in a girl group. I think we were called Emerge, and then that transitioned into something else. But I was around Sly and Robbie all of that time, and so I was kind of groomed by them. Got to the point with them where they put me on a Beanie Man record on his Tropical Storm album, and I was able to tour with Beanie Man for about 2 years. From there, I think I met Kevin Little when I was on the road. Ended up touring with him for a little while. Ended up touring with Kimani Marley for a little while. But, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie called Six Steps from Stardom or something like that. I forget.
No.
But, as is the case with a lot of people who are, playing a supporting role, you kind of get pigeonholed in that role, and I'm not to be pigeonholed.
That's not you at all. Absolutely no shape, no form. I mean, how do you parlay? Well, I guess it just speaks to the person that you are, Calibe, that you're such a go-getter, because so many people would have settled for where you were. You have a career as a singer, supporting artists, but you're still a singer. So what made you step out of that role? How did the next opportunity come along?
I come from an entrepreneurial, I won't say a family. My father was an entrepreneur, and I've never seen myself as anything but a go-getter. My whole family has a very strong work ethic. And so for anybody to be, I play the supporting role very well as well. So I'm very good with a team, and if I'm supposed to be the supporting vocalist or the supporting player or the supporting team member, I'm going to do that to the best and play that role the best way possible, but I cannot be stuck there. You said it speaks to me, but I think it speaks to anyone who has that mindset from the day that they're born. They will never be comfortable playing
being
a
the second fiddle
role.
Yeah,
you do that to learn something, but you can't be stuck there. It doesn't work.
Right. So you move out of the singing role, which most and then what's the next stage in your career? Because you're still a young woman. So when were you doing all of this for 20 years?
Oh, Lord. I did it. I started while I was still in school. So I went to Immaculate. I went to Campton for sixth form. And then I went to the University of Technology because I actually have a degree in architecture. I have a bachelor's degree in architecture. I wanted to be an artist and knew my father wasn't going to pay for, schooling to go paint anything or sculpt anything. So we said what was the most functional way I could apply art, and the thought
architecture.
The thought was architecture.
Interesting. I don't know if I would have even had the been able to make that correlation between creation and architecture. But yes, go ahead, because I did wonder about that degree.
It was when you're an artist, and I tell people that I've always been an artist and always occupied that mental space, and it just kind of has changed form from one period of life to the next. So I left architecture and went into interior design, and while I was in that space is when I got the call to go off with Beanie Man, and of course I was like, I'm blowing this joint.
See ya.
You feel like, I'm going to go live a dream and I'm going to travel the world, which I did.
Yeah, but
there's the shiny side of the entertainment industry where you're flying all over the place and staying in the fancy hotels and blah, blah, blah. And there's the side where you're really just going from plane to hotel room to radio station to show, back on the plane, back to so you're really not experienced. I don't think I've experienced a lot of the places that I travel to.
Right.
And so I would never I'd never change the experience, but I don't really have a lot of memories of these places. So,
wow. No, that's very interesting, because you know what, you just shattered a misconception that so many of us have, that being a performer and an artist, well, some of us, is such a glamorous life, but there you go, bursting the bubble immediately, that you're not actually in the moment, because you're just moving book to the next thing, and you're not drinking the tea in the moment.
I mean, I'm sure there are some groups that do, but I think when you're on the road with a certain level of established artists, because they've seen it and they've done it before, the group doesn't end up going out and doing, things that more frighten people like me and perhaps you. Really, we went and had dinner on the Eiffel Tower, and the guy who took us from the label was like, "Oh, do you guys want to go up to the top?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And
you were the only one.
I was like, "No, thanks. I've seen it, been there, done that. I want to go back to the hotel."
Wow! Oh my goodness! Oh yeah, because you're playing second fiddle, right? You're playing second fiddle, right? So you need to call the shots, Calibe. Right?
Well, that's exactly why, you get to a point where you're like, all right, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm happy to have been here. I'm happy to have experienced all of this, but it feels like there's more to be done. And so after, having been on the road with him, then touring with Kevin, then touring with Kimani, I kind of settled in Miami for a little while, which is where my sister was living, and got a regular job, and I kept getting pulled back into music industry. One of the producers that I worked with, from around the time when I moved here up until very recently. I mean, he still will call me and to crack the whip and tell me to do harmonies for his other singers or whatever, but which I'll do in studio,
Right.
But Blackout, who's the producer for This Is Why I'm Hot, and he's done stuff for Nicki Minaj and Pitbull, and so he's one of my very close collaborators, even to the point where I will now call him and say, help me fix up these vocals for the TV show that we're working on. So
goodness, all right. So
one hand wash the other.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you're working with some named people, and I'm wondering, how did you get that connection to Beanie Man and Kevin Little, or did one lead to the other? But where did it start?
It all kind of just flows in a certain way. Everything is 6 degrees of separation. So as I said, I started off with Sly and Robbie. They had been commissioned to do a song on the Tropical Storm album with Beanie Man, and they put me on that record.
Okay.
I had been somehow, I don't remember how I met Clyde McKenzie. I think it was at some music concert, music festival in Jamaica. I had met Clyde McKenzie, who was one of Beanie Man's managers. And so, he knew me just from being around, and then he saw me on the Sly and Robbie record, and it so happened that they had the Janet Jackson record on that album, and Janet wasn't available to tour with Beanie Man, so they said, hey,
wow,
we need somebody. I was put on a short list with, I think, Chrissy D and some other people, and
it was Calibe.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Okay,
Yeah.
Calibe, since we're talking about music now, just like my previous guest, these multifaceted women, just put me to shame. And I just want to say big up to you. And we haven't even scratched the surface of what Calibe Thompson does. But I just want the Conduit listeners to take a listen to this track here. And then I got one more track that I'm going to play, a couple more tracks. But take a listen to this one. Let me see if I can play this one. Is it playing? Oh, okay. You know what? It would help if I turn the volume up, right? I think that would work, right? I think
Maybe.
so. All right. So let's try and hope it's not too loud. Take a listen to this. Does that rhythm sound familiar, people?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
They say you're a rider, bound to crash and burn. I guess I'm in denial, guess I'll never learn. I give you the keys to my heart. I give you the keys to my heart. They say you're a player, a one-man band, but you can bang on my piano, 'cause I'm your biggest fan. I give you the keys to my heart. I give you the keys to my
I actually want to play. So I want to play that song all the way through. So after we've done having our conversation, Calibe, I'm actually going to play that song. There's more music from Calibe, but that's just a sample of Calibe, who also goes by the name of Miss Calibe. Right? It's now 7:12, I think. It's Sunday evening, March 22nd, and you're listening to The Conduit Show with my very special guest in the 7 o'clock hour, Miss Calibe Thompson. So she's telling us about her steps, her careers to where she is now, but she's just still in the music, which is why I played that track. It's called Keys to My Heart. When did you record that one, Calibe?
I don't remember. It was not too long. It was during the time when that record was hot.
Yes.
So just a few years ago.
Right.
But that one I recorded with Blackout when I was working with Blackout.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and during that, I mean, you asked how everything kind of fell
Comes together.
with all these people. I think it was while I was touring with Beanie Man, Kevin Little's manager had seen me here and there on the road, but I met him through Don Youth. I don't know if you remember an artist called Don Youth.
No, I don't. No.
Okay.
Maybe I do.
He's like a Sean Paul kind of character.
No, then I don't.
But we knew each other from Jamaica. He knew Kevin. We were just all in the same place at the same time, and however these things happen, it happened. Blackout I met through a mutual friend also while I was in Miami. But everything is really 6 degrees of separation. It's like when you go on Facebook and somebody requests you and you see that you have 37 of this or 77 of the same friends, and you just never met each other.
What happens there, Calibe? They just look at people's friends and send the friend request to the friends. That's how it. Because I'm looking at Facebook and I'm like, well, how do you know my family in England? They just look at your Facebook, your friend list, and send messages to your friends.
Yeah, and we all know the same people, so it works.
Right.
So yeah, it's just been a very small circle of people. Even after I had stopped touring so much, I kept busy with Blackout. I actually had a song on mainstream radio here with one of Blackout's other artists up to maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And that's when I it was being in music that had me segue into video production.
Right, because I wanted to ask you about that. That's a good leap from one to the other. When did Blondie Ras Productions come about?
Blondie, well, the company name actually was established, I think, in 2013. Mm-hmm. But I started producing my first video production was a music video for myself. And it was a dance record I had done called Like a Star. Mm-hmm. And we thought it was a good record. It was done with an independent label out of the Netherlands, I think. Mm-hmm. And, again, connections and friends. And one guy had a video camera, and we had a bunch of people around Blackout, the Blackout movement, who were willing to come and play pretend and play dress up and do this thing with us. So I scripted out a video, had the guy shoot it. I storyboarded the whole thing out, and you wanted this shot here and that shot there, and Blackout had Final Cut on his laptop, and you want to see me I try.
But had you ever had
to edit this and that and whatever?
Had you ever had experience?
It came out really funny, which is what I intended, and it had a viral element to it, and that was my first foray into video editing.
So had you ever had experience before, or had you been around people who were doing it?
Never had done anything about it before.
Wow.
So I still have not. I don't know if I should be disclosing this, but I